Once you hear these words, you might feel something inside you shift. Because deep down, you'll realize most of the stress, the confusion, the disappointment you felt wasn't caused by others. It was caused by the quiet ways you've been giving your peace away. You didn't mean to. You were just trying to be kind, to be understood, to be loved. But somewhere along the way, you started trading your calm for approval. You started explaining your worth instead of embodying it. You started running after connection instead of letting it meet you halfway. And the world noticed. The more you tried to prove yourself, the less people listened. The more you gave, the less they valued it. Because when you give away your peace to earn love, love stops feeling like peace. You see, most men don't lose their power in one big mistake. They lose it slowly, in small, silent ways. In the moments they overthink a text, chase an answer, or stay quiet just to keep the peace. They don't realize they're training the world to take from them what they never protect. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll start to notice how much energy you waste trying to control what was never yours. How much strength you lose reacting to things that don't deserve your reaction. That awareness is painful, but it's also the beginning of freedom, because you can't change what you don't see. And once you see it, you start to move differently. You stop explaining your every move. You stop chasing people who aren't chasing you. You stop pouring your soul into places that don't pour back. You begin to stand still. And in that stillness, you find something you've been missing: control. Not control over others, but control over yourself. That's when everything changes. You stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. You stop craving validation and start creating peace. You stop living for reaction and start living with intention. This is what separates men who keep repeating the same lessons from men who finally learn them. Because this isn't just about women, it's about life. It's about discipline. It's about learning to stay calm in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance. When you master that, when you stop reacting and start observing, you become unshakable. You move differently. You speak less, but when you do, it carries weight. You love deeply, but never desperately. That's the power you've been missing, not louder confidence, but quieter strength. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. So listen closely, because what comes next isn't about changing her, it's about changing you. And when you change you, everything around you begins to shift. When you understand these lessons, you stop chasing what runs and start attracting what belongs. 1. Explaining too much. Every time you find yourself explaining too much, stop and notice what's really happening. You're not just trying to be clear, you're trying to be seen. You want her to understand your side, your reasons, your heart. But what she hears underneath all those words is something else: uncertainty. She doesn't hear confidence, she hears concern. You might tell yourself it's honesty. You might think it's transparency. But when honesty comes from insecurity, it stops sounding like truth and starts sounding like pleading. You're not explaining to inform, you're explaining to gain approval. And the moment you do that, the balance shifts. You're no longer leading the interaction, you're following it. That's how most men lose power, not through anger or mistakes, but through over-talking. They trade silence for comfort and end up convincing no one, not even themselves. Because words said out of fear never sound like strength. A grounded man doesn't fill every pause. He doesn't explain every decision or defend every action. He knows who he is, so he lets his actions speak for him. He says something once clearly, calmly, and then he stops. He lets silence carry the rest. And that silence, when it comes from certainty, is louder than any speech. It tells the world, I don't need you to understand me, to be sure of me. It tells her that you are anchored, that her questions, her moods, her doubts can't move you from your truth. When you over-explain, you invite more questions. When you speak once with conviction, you invite respect. People start to sense your energy. They begin to trust your steadiness, because steadiness is rare. And rare things draw attention without effort. Not everyone deserves to know your reasons. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Some things are better left to silence, not as avoidance, but as mastery. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste your time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the essence of this truth. Stop telling people who you are, show them. Stop explaining your worth, embody it. Because real confidence doesn't beg to be understood. It doesn't chase validation or over-justify decisions. It simply stands steady, unmoved, undeniable. Stoic lesson, say less, mean more. Let silence speak for you. 2. Chasing instead of leading. When you chase, something inside you shifts. You stop being centered. You stop being grounded. You move from power to panic, from direction to distraction. You lose yourself trying to catch something that was never meant to be caught that way. At first, it feels like effort. It feels like care. You tell yourself you're showing interest, that you're being attentive. But what's really happening is subtle. You're starting to perform instead of lead. You're trying to earn what should flow toward you naturally: attention, affection, peace. And the moment your happiness depends on someone else's response, you've already given away control of your emotions. You've told her and yourself that your calm depends on her approval. That's not attraction, that's attachment wearing a mask. You start sending that extra text, trying to fill every gap with words, trying to prove that you care, that you're still here, that you matter. But every extra effort born out of fear carries the same message: I'm afraid of losing you. And fear never attracts, it repels. Because a woman isn't drawn to the man who runs after her. She's drawn to the man who keeps walking his path no matter who joins him. The man whose purpose is clear, whose silence has weight, whose calm creates gravity. A Stoic man doesn't chase, he leads. He doesn't beg for attention, he commands respect without demanding it. He doesn't fill the silence with noise. He uses it as a test of strength. When she pulls away, he doesn't panic. He pauses. He breathes. He lets her distance reveal what words can't. Because silence is pure truth, it never lies. It shows who's truly interested and who was just entertained. It reveals who values your presence and who only noticed you when you were available. If she's for you, she'll follow your calm energy back to center. If she's not, no amount of chasing will make her stay. And that's okay, because a man who walks in purpose never fears what leaves his path. He just keeps walking. Let the world chase what runs. Let the restless beg for what won't stay. You stay grounded, focused, steady. Because the moment you stop running after what's fading, you start attracting what's real. The moment you stop chasing noise, you start hearing peace. That's where your strength lives, not in pursuit, but in presence. Stoic lesson: don't run after what walks away. Lead yourself and the right energy will follow. 3. Revealing everything too soon. You meet a woman and the energy clicks instantly. Her smile disarms you, her laugh feels familiar, and for a moment it feels like the universe aligned just to bring her to you. So you open up fast. You tell her your story, your struggles, your goals, your wounds, your dreams. It feels deep. It feels honest. It feels like connection. But what feels deep to you often feels heavy to her. Because depth without time isn't intimacy, it's exposure. It's too much, too soon. She doesn't see a mysterious, grounded man with layers worth exploring. She sees a man eager to be understood, eager to be accepted, eager to prove that he's different. And what began as curiosity starts to feel like pressure. The spark fades not because you said the wrong thing, but because you gave away too much before she could earn it. Connection and exposure are not the same thing. Connection builds slowly. It grows through shared moments, consistency, patience. Exposure happens all at once, and once it's out there, you can't take it back. It cheapens what should have been revealed through trust. Your past is not a casual story. Your dreams are not small talk. Your pain is not entertainment. These are sacred things, pieces of your inner world that not everyone should be allowed to touch. When you give someone everything at once, you rob both of you of the beauty of discovery. Because mystery isn't manipulation, it's rhythm. It's knowing that true connection isn't built in a rush. It unfolds with time, honesty, and restraint. A wise man lets her see parts of him through his actions, not through emotional oversharing. He lets his silence create space. He lets her wonder who he is, what drives him, what he's thinking. He allows curiosity to do the work words can't. Because attraction grows in mystery, in the space between what's shown and what's still unknown. And when she finally earns your truth, it carries weight. It feels real because it was revealed with intention, not impulse. Hold some of yourself back, not to play games, but to protect your essence. Let her earn your story the same way you earn hers. Because anything given too easily loses its value, even love. Be patient with your truth. Be deliberate with your vulnerability. Because when you share from fullness instead of hunger, your words stop sounding like a confession and start sounding like wisdom. Stoic lesson: what's sacred should be shared with time, not hunger. The more patient you are with your truth, the more powerful it becomes. 4. Trying to fix her. She's upset. Her tone shifts. Her words don't line up. Her energy feels heavy, and instantly, something inside you reacts. You want to help. You want to fix it. You want to make it better. Because that's how most men are wired. When there's a problem, we find a solution. You start looking for the right words, the right logic, the right gesture to pull her out of it. You think if you say the perfect thing, she'll calm down and everything will go back to normal. But every time you rush in to repair her emotions, you step out of your own stability. You stop listening. You stop observing. You trade calm for control, and that's when you lose your power. When you jump into her storm, you forget your role. You can't lead when you're swept up in the same waves. And the truth is, she doesn't need a rescuer. She doesn't need a lecture. She doesn't even need to be fixed. She just needs to feel your calm, that steady energy that says, "I'm not moved by this. You're safe here." That's what creates trust. That's what builds respect. That's what makes a woman feel secure, not because you said the right thing, but because you didn't fall apart when she did. When you try to fix her, you're actually sending a silent message. I can't handle your emotions unless they make sense to me. And that's what breaks the connection. Because she doesn't want a man who needs her to be calm in order for him to stay composed. She wants a man who can stay composed no matter what she feels. That's what strength looks like, not resistance, but rootedness. You stay grounded. You breathe. You listen. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't fill the silence with empty reassurance. You let her emotions pass through without letting them pull you under. Because when you hold your peace in her chaos, something powerful happens. She feels it. She senses your stability, and it gives her something to anchor to. Your calm becomes her calm. And later, when the storm passes, she won't remember every word you said. She'll remember how you made her feel. Safe, steady, understood. That's the difference between a man who fixes and a man who leads. One tries to stop the storm. The other becomes the mountain it breaks against. Every emotion doesn't need an answer. Every silence doesn't need to be filled. Some moments only ask for presence, not performance. A Stoic man knows this. Not every storm is his to stop. Sometimes his job is simply to remain unshaken while it passes. Stoic lesson: her storm is not your storm. Stay grounded. Let your calm do the healing. 5. Losing purpose for love. This is one of the quietest, most dangerous traps a man can fall into: losing his purpose in the name of love. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first, it looks harmless. You skip one gym session because she wants to spend the evening together. You cancel a meeting because she's feeling lonely. You slow down your goals, your habits, your grind, telling yourself you're just being a good partner. But little by little, something shifts. The fire that once drove you begins to dim. The man who used to wake up with a mission now wakes up waiting for a message. The vision that once fueled you gets replaced by her moods, her schedule, her attention. And here's the truth most men don't want to face. You didn't lose her respect because you stopped loving her. You lost it because you stopped loving your purpose. She was drawn to your focus, to your discipline, to that quiet sense of direction that said, "I know who I am and where I'm going." That's what made her feel safe around you, the steadiness of your mission. But when that man disappears, the energy changes. The attraction fades. The polarity dies. Not because she wanted you to give it up, but because she trusted you wouldn't. You think you're proving commitment by making her your whole world. But what you're really showing is that your world had nothing else holding it together. And no woman feels secure in the arms of a man who's abandoned himself. A Stoic man understands love should walk beside your purpose, not replace it. Your mission is your foundation. It's the spine that keeps everything else standing. Without it, you drift. And when you drift, your emotions start steering you. You become reactive, uncertain, dependent. You start living for her approval instead of your progress. And when your sense of self depends on someone else's presence, you lose the very thing that made you powerful: independence. So, stay on your path. Go to the gym. Build your business. Protect your mornings. Nurture your goals. Not out of ego, but out of discipline. Because the man who follows his calling with consistency doesn't have to chase love. He becomes the kind of man who naturally attracts it: calm, confident, focused. When you stay loyal to your purpose, love fits into your life naturally. It doesn't demand that you shrink. It inspires you to expand. It's not a distraction. It becomes a shared direction. That's real partnership: two paths walking side by side, not one person stepping off his to follow the other. Remember this truth. Your purpose existed before she arrived. It gave you strength before she saw you. And it must still exist if she ever walks away. Because purpose is what gives love its direction, its meaning, and its safety. When you forget that, love becomes chaos. When you remember it, love becomes peace. Stoic lesson: let love walk beside your purpose, never replace it. When you stay true to your path, you lead with strength, not need. 6. Competing for her attention. You're out somewhere, maybe a dinner, a party, or just walking through a crowd. She's talking, laughing, glowing in a way that pulls attention. Her eyes light up when someone else speaks. Her tone softens, her energy shifts, and in that instant, something inside you tightens. That small sting in your chest, not love, but ego. You feel it before you even think it. The impulse to react, to talk a little louder, to say something funny, to pull her focus back to you, to remind everyone, especially her, that you're the man in the room. But here's the quiet truth. The moment you react to that feeling, you've already lost your balance. Because every action born from insecurity takes you further away from strength. The more you perform to be seen, the less you are felt. The louder you get, the smaller your presence becomes. You think you're showing confidence, but it's not confidence that's speaking. It's fear. Fear of losing attention. Fear of not being enough. Fear that her laughter with someone else means she's forgetting your worth. But a Stoic man knows better. He doesn't perform for attention. He doesn't compete for validation. He doesn't step into a race that exists only in his imagination. He understands something few men do. True value doesn't chase the spotlight. It becomes the light. It doesn't demand to be seen. It commands to be felt. So let her laugh. Let her talk. Let her enjoy the moment. And while she does, remain calm, steady, unbothered, because your strength isn't in pulling attention back. It's in being so centered that attention naturally returns to you. Stillness is power. It's rare. It's magnetic. A man who can stay silent in a room full of noise becomes the one everyone quietly notices. He doesn't have to fight for space. The room adjusts around him. When you compete for attention, you become another performer in her audience, one of many. But when you stay composed, you become the stage itself. The steady ground everything else revolves around. Women remember the man who doesn't flinch when her attention shifts. They trust the man whose peace isn't threatened by the moment. Because that calm confidence, that quiet certainty, says more than 100 clever lines ever could. So don't chase eyes. Don't fight for noise. Be still. Be grounded. Be present. You don't need to prove you're special. You just need to be what's rare, a man who knows his worth so deeply, he never tries to prove it. Because presence will always be more powerful than performance. And calm confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be noticed, is what truly draws everything toward it. Stoic lesson: stillness is louder than performance. The man who doesn't need attention receives it without asking. 7. Making her your happiness. If your joy depends on her, you've already stepped away from yourself. Because the moment your peace relies on someone else's mood, presence, or affection, you've handed them quiet control over your emotions. And once you do that, your balance starts to slip. One day she's warm, she laughs, she's close, everything feels perfect. The next, she's distant, quieter, distracted, and suddenly your whole world feels unstable. That isn't love. That's dependency disguised as devotion. You start chasing her smiles instead of your mission. You start watching her moods instead of your own mind. You become so focused on keeping her happy that you forget what makes you happy. And in doing that, you lose the power that made you magnetic in the first place, your independence. Understand this. No one should ever hold the keys to your peace but you. The Stoics taught that happiness doesn't come from what happens around you, it comes from how you choose to respond. Your peace has to live in your habits, your discipline, your routine, not in someone else's reaction to you. When your world is built on internal order, external chaos can't destroy it. When your peace comes from within, you can love without fear. You stop needing constant reassurance because you no longer depend on her to complete you. You already are complete. That's when love changes shape. It stops being a cage you cling to and becomes something lighter, freedom shared between two whole people. It's no longer a desperate need, but a calm exchange. You can give love freely because you're not giving it to survive. You're giving it from strength. You stop needing her to fill your emptiness because you've filled it yourself through purpose, discipline, growth, and gratitude. You stop trying to earn love to feel worthy because you already understand that worth is built, not given. And ironically, that's the exact energy that draws her in deeper. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who can stand alone, steady, content, unbothered, and still smile. So build your happiness the same way you build your strength, through effort, through habits, through repetition. Wake up early, work on yourself, learn something new, create, train, grow, because when your peace is built from within, love becomes a choice, not an escape. A calm, fulfilled man doesn't panic when someone pulls away. He doesn't break when emotions change. He understands that love is a beautiful part of life, but never the source of it. So protect your center. Stay grounded in your routine, your purpose, your growth. Let love walk with you, not carry you. Stoic lesson: be whole first. Love from overflow, not emptiness. Because the man who doesn't need love to be happy experiences it more deeply when it arrives. 8. Reacting to every test. She pulls away. She takes longer to reply. She laughs a little too long with someone else. She throws a sarcastic comment, sharp and playful, but with a hint of challenge underneath. And right then you feel it. That quick, sinking tension in your chest. The voice in your head starts to whisper, "What changed? Did I mess up? Should I fix this before it's too late?" That's how the trap begins. Quiet, emotional, invisible. You feel the pull to do something, anything, to get back control, to explain, to text again, to double down on attention, to prove your worth. But every time you react, you give away a piece of your center. You stop leading the moment and start chasing the mood. You hand over the emotional steering wheel and suddenly, your peace depends on her behavior. Most men never realize this simple truth. Every test isn't an attack, it's a mirror. It reflects where you still lack control, where your emotions still lead you instead of serving you. She's not trying to destroy your calm, she's trying to feel it. She's not testing your patience because she's cruel. She's testing your steadiness because she wants to know if it's real. She wants to see if your composure holds when she pulls away, if your self-respect stays intact when she challenges it, if your energy remains steady when your ego wants to explode. That's what women feel on a deeper level, not your words, not your charm, but your stability. They don't remember everything you say, but they always remember how your energy feels when tension rises. A stoic man understands this. He doesn't react, he observes. He doesn't try to control the storm, he lets it pass. He breathes before every word. And he never speaks, just to fill the silence. Because silence, when it comes from strength, is not weakness, it's strategy. It gives space for emotions to settle and for truth to rise. It prevents small sparks from turning into fires. When you master your reactions, you stop being tossed around by external chaos. You start controlling the rhythm of the moment. You no longer fight for emotional dominance, you embody it. You stop being the puppet of your feelings and become the one who holds the strings. And when she realizes that nothing she does can shake your peace, something changes. Hair tests soften, hair energy shifts, because the man who cannot be provoked is the man she feels safest around. She may test you again, she may pull back, tease, or question you, but this time she does it with respect, because she knows your calm isn't an act, it's your nature. That's what true strength looks like. Not loud, not defensive, not controlling, just quiet, grounded, immovable presence. The man who controls himself doesn't have to control anyone else. His peace does the leading for him. Stoic lesson: control yourself and you control the moment. The man who rules his reactions rules his reality. 9. Lowering your standards. You say you want peace. You say you want honesty. You say you want loyalty. But then you find yourself accepting the opposite, arguing through chaos, pretending half-truths are misunderstandings, telling yourself that inconsistency is just how love is. You notice the red flags, but you paint over them with patience. You tell yourself, no one's perfect. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but deep down, you know the truth. You're not being understanding, you're being afraid. Afraid to be alone, afraid to start again, afraid that if you walk away, you'll never find something better. And that's how good men quietly betray themselves. Not through weakness, but through fear. Fear turns standards into suggestions. Fear turns boundaries into begging. Fear turns your peace into something you keep giving away in small pieces. Every time you accept less than what you value, you send a message to the world and to yourself. My peace can be bought. My worth can be negotiated. My loneliness means more than my self-respect. And here's the thing, once you teach someone that lesson, they will never forget it. Because people don't respond to your words, they respond to your patterns. They don't believe what you demand, they believe what you tolerate. When you let disrespect slide once, it becomes easier to repeat. When you allow dishonesty to go unaddressed, it becomes a rhythm. When you accept inconsistency, it becomes the atmosphere you live in. But a Stoic man knows where to draw the line. He doesn't do it with anger, but with calm certainty. He doesn't chase perfection, he just refuses to make peace with what destroys peace. He doesn't lower his expectations to keep someone close. He holds his standards high enough to protect his own soul. Because standards aren't about control, they're about clarity. They tell the world who you are and what kind of energy can stay near you. They don't make you cold, they make you consistent. They don't make you distant, they make you disciplined. When you know your worth, you stop negotiating with chaos. You stop explaining why you want loyalty. You stop defending why peace matters to you. Because peace, honesty, and loyalty aren't demands, they're the basics. They're the foundation of anything real. So when someone can't meet that, when they bring confusion, disrespect, or deceit, you walk away. Not in anger, not in pride, but in quiet self-respect. Because walking away isn't losing love, it's making room for something that aligns with who you truly are. Remember, boundaries aren't walls. They don't block love, they protect it. They filter out what disturbs your spirit and keep your dignity safe. So, never apologize for having standards. They're not arrogance, they're alignment. They're the rules that guard your peace, your focus, and your sanity. And any woman who truly respects you won't feel threatened by them, she'll rise to meet them. Because in the end, you don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you stand firm on. You attract what you are willing to uphold. Stoic lesson. What you tolerate teaches others how to treat you. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. When you stop chasing approval, you free yourself from its grip. Because the moment you stop living to please, you start living with peace. You stop bending just to be accepted and start standing for what matters. And that's when everything changes. You stop being controlled by what's outside because you've taken command of what's within. When you stop reacting, you begin to see. You stop letting emotions drag you from one extreme to another. You stop letting other people decide how your day will go or who you will be. Instead, you start observing, calm, clear, aware. You respond only when it serves you, not when it feeds your ego. When you stop explaining, you start commanding respect. Because a man who knows himself doesn't waste words proving it. His presence speaks before he does. His silence holds weight because it comes from conviction, not fear. And that right there is what the Stoics meant by mastering yourself. It's not about controlling the world. It's about controlling your world, your mind, your reactions, your peace. Because the man who owns his emotions owns the moment. And the man who owns the moment eventually owns his life. You can't control her moods. You can't control her choices. You can't control her tests. But you can always control your presence. And that's where your true power lives. It's not in louder words or bigger gestures. It's not in proving, chasing, or convincing. Your power is in your stillness, that quiet, steady energy that doesn't rise and fall with the noise around it. A man grounded in calm energy is unshakable, not because the world is peaceful, but because his mind is. He's not untouched by chaos, he's simply unmoved by it. You'll reach a point where you stop explaining who you are. You stop chasing what walks away. You stop begging to be noticed. Because real power isn't about being desired, it's about being centered. It's about walking through the storm with a calm so strong that even the wind respects it. And when you reach that place, something profound happens. The same people who once tested you begin to respect you. The same world that once overlooked you starts to follow your lead. And the same woman who once pulled away feels drawn back, not because you chased her, but because you didn't. That's what true attraction really is. Not force, not strategy, not manipulation, just presence. A presence that says, I am enough, with or without you. A stillness that makes others feel safe, even when they can't explain why. A quiet confidence that speaks louder than words ever could, because when a man no longer needs to be understood, he becomes undeniable. When he no longer tries to control others, he becomes unshakable. And when he no longer seeks validation, he becomes magnetic. In that silence, in that stillness, she feels something ancient. The energy of a man who needs nothing, but attracts everything. Because the Stoics were right. The one who masters himself no longer has to master anyone else. He simply is. And in that being, he becomes untouchable.